Right, I'm just going to quickly go through text and text boxes in InDesign. So as we saw before, we can make a box, we can put stuff in it. So this box is empty, it's ready for some text. So we'll go over to the type tool, we'll click on that just as it is. I'm not going to bother looking at the path one at the moment. And then we'll go to this box and you can see it's waiting to turn into a text box. So I can type in here, I can select it and delete it, or I can fill it with placeholder text like I showed in the previous video. So here is fill with placeholder text, and this is just lorem ipsum. It's a traditional, I think it's Latin, body of type that you would use just to show that there was going to be text in a particular place on a page layout. So here's some text in this box. I'm going to pick up the box and move it around. I'm going to put it over here and I'm going to zoom in. So I'm going to press Command and plus a couple of times so that we can see the type. So we've got the normal handles in the corners and on the sides of the box, and you can twist it around and stuff like that. Just a note about that, if you hold down, come on, start turning that. If you hold down Shift as you turn, then it will do it at, what's that, 45 degrees. Yeah, it'll jump like that. Undo. Okay, right, so as I said in the previous video, we can use the type tool, we can double click on a word and it'll select it, or we can triple click on a line and it'll select that whole line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 selects the paragraph, and 5 selects everything. Okay. So what we want to have a look at is different typefaces so that we can try and address the homework task, which was, where's it gone? This one. Yeah. So this homework task is wanting you to have a look at having different weights and thicknesses of text or fonts, different line spacing. We can have a look at letter spacing and moving them around just to create different sorts of textures. So let's go back in here and have a look at that. So for a start off, what we've got default is Minion Pro. I'm just going to select all of that text there and have a look in here, and you can see as you scroll down there's all sorts of other fonts available anyway in your computer, and you can go and choose something. You can see the previews as you go down. Please don't use Comic Sans. No need for that sort of thing. Try not to use Arial unless you're stuck on a PC that doesn't have Helvetica. Here's Helvetica. So let's just have a quick look at that. It's a bit of a weird font to start with. So if we go and look back up at the top here, actually I'll get the type box out. Window, type, character. Yeah, so that, or Command and T, and now I've got a little floating box that I can put wherever I want. And if I want to get back to it easily next time, I can just drag it over here, and you can see how it's just moved into that little spot there. So I want to pull that out and put that over here. So I can go in here and I can choose my fonts, which we just saw, and then you can look at various different weights, the standard ones, or bold, for instance. If we just go to regular for now, and then here we can change the size of the typeface. And what you'll notice maybe down at the bottom right hand corner of the text box is you've now got a little red square with a plus in it. That's just giving you a warning that there's more text associated with this box than the box can hold. And we know why that is, because Andrew's just made all the text really big. So it's disappeared, and if I was to change the size of that box, after a while that little red square would disappear because we'll have given it enough space. There we go. Yeah. So let's just select all that again. So yeah, we can change the size. You can also type the number in here and it does it in points. Yeah, so type in the number and press return. So that's your letter sizing. Yeah, there. Over here we've got the line spacing. Okay, so that's called leading. And in olden days of printing, they would actually put pieces of lead, strips of lead in between the lines of metal type. What we do is we just click on up and down arrows or select auto. What you want to play about with for this exercise is just looking at the texture that you create by changing the line spacing and stuff. Okay, so you have to have it all selected for this to work. We can shrink that right down so that it's an unreadable mess. Next thing to look at underneath the leading is the tracking. And the tracking, as you can see here, we've got a V next to an A, and so it's the space between the letters, okay, and how close they are together. And so by default, you can see what Helvetica does, and we can spread these out. That looks amazing. Or we can squash them in, and we can squash them so much that letters start to hit each other. And as a for instance, typeface wise, Helvetica is a bit of a weird one to use because you can see, let's have a look, Some is quite an interesting example here. You can see that the S and the U have kind of collided, but the U and the M haven't collided. Similarly here, and the balance of some of the letter forms hitting each other is all right, and then in other cases it isn't. You know, so for instance, if we were looking at this word, the R's, this R looks all right. This one, it needs a bit of space in between it. So we've used the default tracking, which is just selecting the whole lot of the words that are on the page and squishing them all together or pulling them apart. If we want to change just the space in between this R and this U, we need to put the cursor there, yeah. And as you can see here, we've got another version which is called Kerning, and this, you can see it's giving it you in the little icon there. It's a V with a cursor in between it and then an A. So if I start to click on this, then this will just spread out those two letters. Okay, and if you wanted to bring something in, maybe we won't go to this U and M, we want to just be whatever, we can squash the M over that part of the U like that. Okay, so letter size, line spacing, letter spacing, and then individual letter spacing in here. These are ones where you can go and change you can stretch the font and stuff like that. Generally, I would avoid that sort of behavior unless you're making a logo. Same here, so you can stretch it width-wise. It works if you're making a logo, but generally it's not the most professional looking. I have never used this ever, but what this allows you to do is you've got a baseline underneath the words, and you can shift everything up or down. So we're not really bothered about that on this course at the moment. And then also you can play about with the kind of italicization of your letters, so you can pull things over in one way or the other like that. But again, we will leave those. The other thing that you might want to do in here is to go and look at your paragraph settings. And this, if we just zoom out, so that was Command and minus. Let's put that over there, put that one there. This is set to left justified. You can center justify it or right justify it, or you can do this classic center it all but have the last one aligned to the left, etc. That's quite an interesting one, justifying all of them. And then you've got little modifications that you can make in there. So let's just zoom out a bit, squish that. So to deal with the homework task here, we've got one box of text. Let's make another box of text. Press T, click in it, fill with placeholder text, select it all, Command and A, choose another font. That's a good one. Yeah, And if we play with the line spacing of these, and then if we look at these next to each other, you can see that there is a difference in the visual texture that you get from these two different typefaces, and the way that they've been spaced, whether it's in line or letter. This is a really thick lined font, and obviously this isn't. There's one other thing that I'll show you, which is just as far as connecting boxes of text together. So again, I ended up with that little red box there. If I make two boxes to put text in and tell them both to be text boxes by clicking on the T, click on that one, click on that one, and then I've got to go up to View, and I've got to remember Extras, and then Show Text Threads. And so I can connect this box to that box. So if I just use the selection tool and go to this text box, what I've also got, we've got inlets up here and outlets down here. And so I could put text in there, and I want to have it flow into this box. So if I click on that, that's where the text is going to come from, this original box, and then it's going to go into this box, and you can see the icons changed into a little keychain. Yeah, so now these two boxes are joined. So if I control click or right click, fill with placeholder text, it'll fill both of them. And then guess what? I'll change the size of that one, text disappears out of that one.